What happens when a reporter thinks that they finally have a gotcha moment, but instead gets blindsided on live television by the United States top policymakers in a moment that has now gone viral? CNN tried to corner Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth over the Trump administration's foreign policy. Now, their goal was to paint the operation in Venezuela as chaotic, expensive, and mismanaged under President Donald J. Trump. But instead, Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, they went ahead and flipped the narrative. They ended up turning the questions that were meant to embarrass into moments of clarity, control, and dominant strategic framing. Now, this wasn't just a clash of talking points. This was a collision between what the media hoped would be a gotcha moment and what many viewers actually are now seeing as a seismic policy reveal. Why the U.S. is seizing Venezuelan oil tankers and controlling millions of barrels as leverage under sanctions, how Rubio outlined a three-phase stabilization plan for Venezuela's future, and why the interview unexpectedly turned toward America's renewed interest in Greenland. A conversation that framed global politics. Now, let me go ahead and ask you this. Did CNN really walk into this exchange thinking that they would dominate the narrative, or did they just unleash Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth's most powerful statements yet? Let me know what you think on that, guys. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. So when CNN walked into this exchange, they were not looking for answers. They were looking for blood. The framing was already set before the question was even asked. This was supposed to be another Trump foreign policy mess. Another moment where President Donald J. Trump could be painted as reckless, impulsive, and just completely out of control on the world stage. This is why the focus was Venezuela: cost, chaos, and credibility. And sitting there were Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. The two officials CNN assumed that they could basically pressure into hedging, deflecting, or just walking something back. But here's the part that most people are missing here. This wasn't some neutral press question. It was a trap. It was designed to corner the administration on live television, force defensive language, and feed a narrative that the United States had no plan, no structure, and no control. Instead, CNN mismanaged and misjudged this moment completely because Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth weren't improvising. They weren't reacting emotionally. They weren't scrambling. They were prepared, and that preparation basically exposed just how shallow the gotcha really was. And once that realization hit the room, the dynamic shifted instantly. So CNN's next move was predictable, and this is exactly why it failed. They pivoted to the question that the legacy media always reaches for when American power is working. How much is this thing going to cost taxpayers? It sounds responsible, it sounds serious, but Pete Hegseth dismantled the premise in seconds by grounding the conversation in reality. The U.S. Navy does not sit idle. American ships are always deployed in the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific, and yes, even the Caribbean. So if they're not enforcing sanctions near Venezuela, they're going to be somewhere else projecting power and protecting U.S. interests. So when CNN framed naval enforcement as some kind of new reckless escalation, Pete Hegseth, he called it out for what it really was: a disingenuous question. Now, here's the new angle that completely flipped the room. The media only asks about cost when the United States is winning. Nobody asks how much it costs when ships patrol endlessly with no results, but the moment enforcement works, the moment that seizures happen, suddenly the concern appears. That's when the tone changed, because the narrative that CNN brought into the room didn't survive contact with facts. Now, you can actually feel the moment when the room changes, guys. This is where CNN loses control of the exchange, not because Pete Hegseth raised his voice, not because Marco Rubio dodged the question, but because the framing collapsed in real time. Now, that question wasn't neutral. Everyone watching already knew what it was designed to do. But once Pete Hegseth grounded it in basic military reality, there was nowhere for the narrative to go. There's no follow-up, no escalation, just silence. And that silence matters because this wasn't a dodge. It wasn't a reset. CNN expected defensiveness. What they got instead was certainty. The administration didn't argue hypotheticals. They didn't speculate. They explained exactly how the United States already operates, how power is projected every single day with or without headlines. And this is why this moment went viral. Not because somebody won an argument, but because viewers, they saw a media tactic fail right out in the open. The question meant to weaken President Donald J. Trump's position ended up reinforcing it. And once that happened, the press lost momentum, which is when Marco Rubio stepped in and changed the conversation entirely. And this is exactly why assumptions are so dangerous. CNN assumed that they understood the situation. They assumed that the framing would hold. And that assumption collapsed the moment that the facts entered the room. And the exact same thing happens to a lot of people with Medicare. Now, one viewer assumed that her Medicare plan was fine, right up until she realized that assumption just cost her $480 that she didn't need to lose. Nothing dramatic, no mistake that she couldn't undo, just quiet money gone because no one walked her through the details. This is why I partner with Chapter. Chapter replaces assumptions with facts by reviewing your Medicare coverage line by line for free before those hidden costs add up. There's no pressure, there's no sales games, just clarity for the Ron Yates community. Now, most people watching the show right now, they're already calling the phone number right here, 909-563-8279, or they're clicking the link in the description down below to go to askchapter.org/Ron to make sure that their plan is actually working for them and not against them. All right, guys, let's get back to what just happened when the narrative completely slipped away. So this is where the interview stopped being theoretical and it became impossible to spin. Marco Rubio, he didn't argue about intentions. He just laid out the leverage. Venezuela's oil isn't moving, not because of chaos, not because of confusion, but because the United States is enforcing sanctions with precision, seizing tankers, blocking revenue, and controlling somewhere between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil that the Venezuelan regime cannot touch without U.S. approval. Now, that's the bombshell CNN didn't expect. Rubio made it very clear. This is not about begging for compliance. This is about dictating terms. Oil that once funded corruption is now leverage, sold at market rates under U.S. control with distribution tightly being managed. This instantly shattered the winging it narrative because you don't accidentally seize tankers. You don't accidentally freeze an entire revenue stream. And you definitely do not accidentally force interim authorities in Venezuela to negotiate from a position of weakness. Now, this wasn't chaos. This was control. And once Rubio said it out loud, the media had no way to put that genie back in the bottle. So this is where it gets worse for the critics, because once Marco Rubio finished explaining the old seizures, he didn't stop there. He laid out the structure calmly, methodically, a three-phase plan that CNN had already dismissed as non-existent. Phase 1, stabilization, prevent collapse, prevent chaos, lock down revenue so that it can't fuel corruption or cartel power. Phase 2, recovery. Open Venezuela's economy in a controlled way, not to cronies, but to American, Western, and allied companies operating under clear rules. And at the same time, rebuild civil society by releasing political prisoners, restoring opposition participation, and allowing exiles to return. Phase 3, transition. Not imposed by Washington, but shaped by Venezuelans themselves, once the leverage ensures that the rules are followed. Now that matters, guys, because this wasn't some whiteboard idea. Rubio made it very clear parts of this plan were already in motion. Oil deals executed, tankers have been seized, revenue frozen, negotiations forced. You don't outline phases like that if you're winging it. You do it only when the operation's already underway. Now, CNN walked into that exchange expecting disorder. They expected confusion. They expected improvisation. They expected something that they could basically label reckless. But instead, they ran headfirst into structure. That is the disconnect that made this moment resonate with so many viewers. The media narrative said chaos, but what people saw was sequencing, timelines, leverage applied in layers. This wasn't regime change rhetoric. It wasn't emotional language. It was mechanics, how power actually works when it's being used deliberately. And once the contrast became obvious, CNN's posture stopped making sense. The more they pressed, the more controlled the answers became. The more they tried to frame uncertainty, the clearer the strategy sounded. This is why the moment didn't fade after the interview ended, because people watching, they could tell something important had happened. The gap between the story they were told to expect and the reality being described became impossible to ignore. And that realization set the stage for the next pivot. This is one that CNN just clearly did not anticipate. So at this point, Pete Hegseth, he does something that the media almost never wants to deal with. He zooms out. He reminds everyone that the U.S. Navy is not a prop that gets rolled out for special occasions. American ships operate constantly in the Mediterranean, in the Indo-Pacific, the Middle East, and yes, even in the Caribbean. So if they weren't enforcing sanctions near Venezuela, they would be enforcing something else somewhere else. And that context matters because CNN's framing depended on the idea that this was just some kind of like unusual, risky deployment, when in reality, this was just routine dominance, enforcement, not escalation. Then Pete Hegseth adds a detail that quietly changes everything. An IRGC-linked vessel was intercepted and seized elsewhere while trying to evade sanctions. That's not Venezuela. That is global reach. And so here's the new angle that most people missed. This wasn't just about one country. This was about demonstrating that sanctions aren't suggestions. They're enforced anywhere, anytime. That's deterrence through consistency. And once you understand that, the cost narrative collapses all over again. And just when it becomes clear that Venezuela's narrative isn't working, CNN abruptly pivots. Now it's Greenland. Now it's Denmark. Now it's NATO. Why? Because they needed a new pressure point, something that sounded dramatic enough to regain control of the conversation. But Marco Rubio, he didn't flinch. He calmly reminds everyone that the United States' interest in Greenland didn't begin yesterday. President Donald J. Trump, he talked about it in his first term. Presidents before him explored it too. This is an impulse. It's strategy. Greenland sits right at the center of Arctic shipping lanes, rare earth minerals, and northern defense architecture. That's not controversy. That's geography. The media tried to frame this as reckless provocation, as if America thinking long-term about its security were somehow radical. But the more Marco Rubio explained it, the clearer it became. This wasn't panic inside the administration. It was panic outside of it, from people realizing the United States was thinking several moves ahead. So once Greenland entered the conversation, CNN shifted into full alarm mode. Now, the framing wasn't just about policy. It was about fear. Fear of escalation. Fear of alienating allies, fear that NATO would somehow fracture because the United States dared to acknowledge its own strategic interests. This is where the narrative completely falls apart. Now, Marco Rubio, he didn't threaten anybody. He didn't posture. He simply stated a reality that every serious country already understands. Every U.S. president, including President Donald J. Trump, retains military operations when national security is at stake. That's not extremism, it's sovereignty. CNN tried to portray this as something new, something dangerous, something uniquely reckless. But history doesn't support that claim, and neither does precedent. Now, what actually unsettled the room wasn't Marco Rubio or what Marco Rubio said. It was how calmly he said it. There was no panic, there was no walk back, just clarity. And once again, the fear narrative collapsed under its own weight. Because when leadership sounds steady, alarmists, they sound hollow. Which kind of brings us to the final takeaway here, and this is why this moment landed so hard with viewers. When CNN walked into that exchange, they were chasing a scandal. They wanted hesitation. They wanted confusion. They wanted a moment that they could clip, headline, and loop. What they got instead was a reality check. Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, they didn't just defend policy. They exposed exactly how shallow the criticism really was. Oil seizures weren't chaos, they were leverage. Military deployments weren't reckless, they were routine. Greenland wasn't a stunt, it was a strategy. And above it all stood President Donald J. Trump leading an administration that wasn't apologizing for American power. It was using it deliberately. And this is why this exchange didn't fade. That's why it spread. And this is why so many people watched it and felt something click finally. Not because everyone suddenly agrees on every policy, but because they actually saw the competence where they were told to expect disaster. The world is adjusting to that reality right now. The media is still catching up. Drop a like, subscribe, share this video. I'll see you next time.